welcome back to another episode of Inside the Inning, brought to you by Afterthought Sports. As always, I'm Jack Haskell, joined by Gavin Watson. What is probably the first time this semester that we've both been in consecutive episodes.
I mean, granted, it's been about 3 episodes so far, but to do it on the Yankees, obviously coming back and winning that wild card series. So a great day to start off and start for the playoffs, and excited to see what these.
Great comeback by the Yankees. Great game by the Yanks last night on Thursday night. We'll get to that series, that comeback, in just a little bit, but if we didn't go over the entirety of the series around the league, and start with probably the most shocking series, in my opinion, between the Cubs and the Padres. The Padres, a team who they were buyers at the deadline. They Mason Miller, they acquired what felt like half of the Orioles, and just to fall short to the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen all playoffs long this series was solid for the Padres. It was really, those early innings that got to the Padres, I feel like. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see the San Diego team go down so early. I really didn't think this Cubs squad was so good. I mean, they've done great things out there in Chicago this year, but the Padres were giving the Dodgers struggle in the middle of July. I mean, this was a team that was giving one of the best teams in baseball some really, really tough stretches. It was really a flip of the coin if the Padres might win the NL to see them go. It's kind of shocking to me, at least.
Yeah, and the Cubs take down the Padres in 3 games NL Wildcard Series. They'll move on to the NLDS, the number 1 seeded Milwaukee Brewers. The Cubs move on thanks to defensive masterclasses by Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson. And
both brought in to do. Nico Horner obviously always had the good glove, and I mean, Swanson's won at least a couple of over the course of his career, and I mean that's really why they Chicago a couple years ago from Atlanta, was to be this guy in the playoffs, and that for that to finally be working out for that leadership group out in Chicago, that's special. You don't necessarily always think this is going to happen.
And as you mentioned, they're Kyle Tucker and PCA starting to figure it out in the Wild Series after slumping in the latter end of the season, and Bush just as always, and it led to this Padres collapse, which I thought the Padres could have made it to at least the NLCS.
I thought there was a good chance that we had a rematch of last year's NLCS, where it wasn't, or no, it was before that the Dodgers and the Padres played. But I thought you could have a rematch of that, and oh my goodness, fun game, Padres-Dodgers again. But nonetheless, we won't get that. However, we will get another good little matchup, the Cubs versus the Brewers. And let's not forget, Craig Counsell used to manage those very same Milwaukee Brewers. This is going to be a fun series.
Kristen Yelich has already talked about it. He's excited to face Counsell.
This is going to be...
It's not like football. It's not like he knows what's coming. Yeah. He knows what this team is like now, but very interesting nonetheless.
That's going to be a fun series to watch. I can't wait for that one, some NL Central baseball. I'm sorry. And if you did, you're lying.
I want to talk about one of those guys that you mentioned, the impact that Kike Hernandez has on the Los Angeles Dodgers. The month turns to October. The Dodgers left off their everyday starting left fielder in Michael Conforto off the Wild Card Series roster. Just slot in Kike Hernandez into the starting lineup.
I mean, granted, too, Kike does have a little bit more of a utilitarian role, whereas Michael Conforto is really primarily an outfielder. That's all he can play.
Oh, absolutely.
But then
I'm not disagreeing.
I think that
either.
Kike is. I mean, you look at his playoff stats; they're crazy. He has some of the best playoff stats out there. Yeah, but yes, I mean, another guy they brought in Michael Conforto this offseason. So clearly, it was a guy who they wanted down the stretch. But they go getting Kike first. I mean, I mean, what he. Not a surprise. It still is a little shocking because they brought in Conforto this year.
Great bright spot for that Dodgers. Miguel Rojas, you even mentioned, starting at second base over last year's playoff MVP and Tommy Edman.
Yeah.
He's been a bright spot. These
Again,
bench guys that don't see a lot of time in the regular season, who, and like you even mentioned, aren't even their top paid guys. Yeah. They just come to life in the month of October.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing that I feel like the Dodgers uniquely understand, having been in the playoffs the last, 10 years in a row practically, is that, bench guy, and it's something the Yankees have also started to understand, is there's time to give these guys rest. And they've done that. And I think those those guys who have been there since they were young.
They're not very young at this point.
They've been there since 2015. They've had experience doing this. And so, when it's their time and Dave Roberts calls them off the bench after they haven't played in a week, they're ready to go because they've done this before and they know what to do and know how to do it.
Absolutely, Gavin. As the Dodgers will move on to face the Philadelphia in the NLDS, probably the matchup I'm looking forward to the second most.
I mean, this is going to be such a good. These are probably the two best teams in the NL. Maybe, I know the Brewers had a great year this year, but what the Phillies have done year over year the last 5 seasons, as well as the Dodgers, these have to be the two juggernauts of the NL going up against each other. And this feels like almost maybe the presumptive World Series or the World Series team for the NL could come out of this matchup. And I don't think that's necessarily a crazy thing to say.
And even talent-wise, too. You look at the talent that both of these teams have. I mean, the Phillies, you have MVPs and all-stars in Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, excuse me, Bryce Harper. And then on the Dodgers side, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts. This is going to be the matchup that has all eyes on it.
And the crazy thing is you've probably left off $500 million of stars' names between the two teams. But if you started to go through that list, we would be here all day long because there's so many superstars in this series. And I mean, this is going to be so fun. This series is going to be a great series. I'm excited to see the pitching matchups. I mean, the Phillies have had some pretty good pitching all season long. The Dodgers, despite some injuries, their pitching has been solid this season. And so to see the guys like Snell, Glasnow, those guys go up against Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, like those are going to, I know we haven't gotten to, we're going to get into it soon here, but that Cleveland-Detroit series where it was just insane pitching, I have a feeling we could see that in this Dodgers-Phillies series because of the firepower of pitching they have.
A lot of reliable pitchers, sketchy bullpens given, but they may shine when the lights are brightest.
Yep.
And you mentioned the Guardians-Tigers series. We'll move on right to that. On the AL wildcard side, the Tigers move on to the ALDS, defeating the Guardians in 3 games. That was an interesting series for a couple of reasons. I mean, Tarek Skubal had probably the game of his career.
Yeah. Tarek Skubal was Tarek Skubal. I mean, he did 7 2/3 innings, 14. I mean, that is literally taking the team, putting them on your back, and saying, "We're going to the playoffs." Like that. We talk about pitchers. They only get an opportunity every 5th day, right? This guy, he had 1 game in this wild card series, and he pitched a gem. And it felt like every game was a good game. Even in that game 3 where Slade Ciccone only went 2 1/3 innings, he still looked sharp in that 2 1/3 innings. So it was just a very, very fun matchup. If you like pitching, if you like defensive games or defensive series, this series out in Cleveland was the one for you. Obviously, there was one of the games was a little bit of a larger score, but for the most part, it was a pitcher's duel in this series.
An outstanding outing by Skubal. Personally, I don't think it was the best pitching performance in this postseason thus far, and believe me, we'll get to what I think was the best. But on the other side of this matchup, the Guardians, they were trying to change things up a little bit. They called up center fielder Chase DeLauder to make his Major League debut in the Wild Card series.
That's not it's gonna be a packed house, right? Maybe not at first pitch. I know those Cleveland games start at once. Maybe not first pitch, but come the 3rd, 4th inning, it's gonna be a full. I don't think I would want to make my major league debut in a playoff game, right? Let alone against an interdivision opponent in the Detroit Tigers, because those games just, even if it wasn't the regular season, the interdivision games mean more to begin with and have that little extra juice. But to do that in the playoffs, all while also making that's crazy. That is absolutely nuts.
You mentioned the massive arenas when the lights are brightest. It may have gotten to him because unfortunately he did drop the first ball that he saw in the outfield, but he did eventually make up for it. He got a few hits, racked up his first major league hit, of course, and unfortunately it wasn't enough for the Guardians to move on, but some can keep their head held up high over.
Well, and Gavin Williams, I believe there's a clip of him after he made that error in the outfield that Gavin Williams went up to him and went, "Hey, dude, it's good. No harm, no foul. It's all good, right?" And that's a veteran move. To understand that this guy is probably so nervous, this is sweating bullets. Hey, it's all good, kid. Yep, you dropped one. That probably changed the course of the series for him. If you don't do that, that kid's going to be in his head the whole rest of the season. And so great job by Gavin Williams, great job by the Guardians to nip that in the bud and make sure that he felt comfortable.
And that's what you love to see from your vets. I mean, he's probably beating himself up about it, even still probably. Yeah. I mean, the biggest moment in his young career thus far, and didn't go the way he wanted it to. But nonetheless, the Tigers beat the Guardians in 3 games. They will move on to the ALDS to face the number 2 seeded Seattle Mariners, and MVP runner-up, yes, I said runner-up, Cal Ryan.
He almost got you there, didn't he?
That should be a great series, some great star power, but I want to move on to this we can probably talk the most about, and the series that has excited, I think, the entire baseball world, to be completely honest, the most. The New York Yankees taking down the Boston Red Sox in 3 games after dropping Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's just to talk about with this. Where do you even start? Do you start with Volpe? Do you start with what we saw last night out of Schlittler? I don't even know where you go. I say we start with Volpe, and I mean, one of our buddies, friend of the Afterthoughts program, Afterthoughts member, Brian Lombardi, predicted a big home run out of Anthony Volpe, and it's funny because we're all sitting here, just watching the game, and we're like, bro, I think he's gonna have a homer.
Volpe's not gonna go yards.
This kid watch any Yankees game this year?
And what does Anthony Volpe do?
He goes. And we're all just sitting there going, you know what? All right, sure, let's do it, dude. You know what? And that's the crazy thing. And I was trying to find the clip of the homer, and I saw that home run actually was a home run in 29 of the 30 ballparks.
What was the one ballpark it wasn't a homer in?
The one ballpark it was not a ballpark or a home run in was Fenway Park in Boston. So if this game in Boston, Anthony Volpe hits a double, a triple,
but yet Boston fans like to say that we have.
Yeah, I mean, the playoffs. You say it all the time. The playoffs. You just. Short memory, everybody's 0-0, right? That doesn't always happen, though. That doesn't always happen. For Anthony Volpe to actually be able to shake it off and just be like, all right, you know what? Regular season's done. What I put out on the field is what I put out on the field, and at the end of the day, that's it, right? Flip the page. I mean, this guy hit 20 home runs in the regular season, right? Hits a home run in the wild card and goes and bats 364. I mean, again, 3-game sample size. Not saying that this guy is, that great of a player because he had 364 in a wild card series. But I think just the ability of Volpe to just turn it around and make an impact in the playoffs. Even, at one point during the game, they made a comment, one of the announcers made a comment about Volpe's been good this year defensively in this series. It was like he hid the lead. It was like, in this series, right? So, he's figured it out in the playoffs. I don't know if it was just a refocus thing, a day off thing, but he's figured it out, and that's what the Yankees need. You want to see him, and I hope he can carry this through the rest of the playoffs and into next year.
Volpe locked in Game 1, locked in the entire series, but unfortunately his home run was not enough to take the victory in Game 1. Max Fried pitched a great outing in Game 1. A lot of Yankees fans argued that Boone should have kept him in the contest. I don't personally agree with that, but nonetheless, a collapse from the bullpen, unfortunately. Luke Weaver giving up 2 runs, who hasn't been great down the stretch, which you compare to how he was pitching last postseason. Just something to look at, something to note. Even David Bednar coming in the 9th, giving up a run. And then the Yankees, in true Yankees fashion, load the bases against Aroldis Chapman in the bottom of the 9th just to not let a single run make it to home plate.
And wait, how many outs were there when they had bases loaded?
0.
Outs.
The bases were loaded against Aroldis Chapman with no outs and not a single run.
Not a single
run made it home.
Yeah, that's frustrating. That's a frustrating way to start the playoffs. But nonetheless, I think if we were sitting here today, Jack, and the Boston Red Sox had beaten us either Wednesday or Thursday, I think that first game would have been one of the games where we'd just been pointed at and gone, yeah, everything about the Yankees that could have gone wrong went wrong.
That's baseball.
But that's baseball. And they figured it out. They turned it around and fixed a lot of what the bullpen figured out quickly, right? That's the good news is because bullpen management is the number one thing in the playoffs is how you manage the pitching. When you pull a guy, when you keep a guy in. And so far, Aaron Boone has done a pretty good job. I mean, the Max Fried decision, it's a flip of the coin, but I think that's the right decision in that situation. Your starter had gone 7 2/3 innings already. He's starting to get in a little bit of traffic. I think that's the situation. I think you ride or die with Luke Weaver because he's been the number one reliever for part of the year.
You could tell that it was time for him to be pulled to. I mean, I get that he said after the fact that he felt comfortable enough staying in, but his stuff wasn't getting in the zone. His velo was going down. I think it was the right decision. Game 2, I also think it was the right decision, pulling Rodon when Boone did pull Rodon.
Yeah, I think, especially with Rodon, he's a guy who don't let the leash get too long. He's always a guy who it feels like it just starts to unravel. At one point, the big innings always seem to get Rodon, and so, hey, identify he gave you a great outing, and just say, hey, thank you for giving us a great outing. We're going to let the bullpen try to handle this one. And if that happens and the bullpen blows it, the bullpen blows it. But I think that's the right decision because we've seen so many times where Carlos Rodon has had the great start through 4 or 5 innings, and then that big inning unravels, and there goes the start. So good job by Aaron Boone to keep the leash short.
And Game 2, of course, was highlighted by Jazz Chisholm giving us his best Usain Bolt impression. I think it was 9.4 seconds from first base to home off a beautifully hit ball by Austin Wells, who, you look at what he did last postseason, I think he finished the postseason hitting .083 at the plate.
Yeah, and that's probably a comfortability thing, too. He was a rookie last season, so playing your first playoff baseball at Yankee Stadium, I mean, yeah, that's going to add a little bit of pressure on. Now this year he's had the full season. He's put a pretty good season out there for the Yankees. So you can enter the playoffs with a little bit more confidence than he did last season. And maybe just that confidence is the reason that he's done so well this season.
And that game was huge for the Yankees, of course, sending the Red Sox starter Brian Bayo packing after 28 pitches. I thought it was fake.
Yeah, that sets you up for the next day, right? You get to that starter early in any of these games, you get to that bullpen a lot earlier that day. So not only do you just get to see the bullpen more, but guess what? Then that next time when Chapman comes out, when those middle relief guys come out, you've already seen them, right? You've already seen them. And so there's been a lot of talk recently of relievers and how you use relievers and whether or not you don't use them 2 days in a row versus certain teams, so that team doesn't get to start to have a book on the guy. So interesting to see, that kind of backfired on the Red Sox, and the Yankees ended up winning after that Bayo getting pulled. So again, I talked about it probably 5 minutes ago. Bullpen management, pitching management. I mean, Corey, you can't necessarily say, I'm going to pull my starter after an inning and a half, but you got to do it. You got to, in the postseason, decisions have a lot more weight, and that decision could have costed him it. You never know.
Game 3, I want to set the scene for you, Gavin. In 2020, during a preseason spring training exhibition game, the Northeastern Huskies faced the Boston Red Sox. Starting for the Huskies was a freshman by the name of Cam Schlittler.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 5 years later, in his 15th major league start in a winner-go-home wildcard series game, Cam Schlittler threw 8 innings, 106 pitches, only gave up 5 hits, allowed no earned runs, and struck out 12 batters. I have no words.
That has been done by approximately one person in the playoffs. His name is Cam Schlittler. Cam Schlittler is the only person to have that stat line to pitch that good in the playoffs. 15 games in your major league career. I mean, the Yankees have something good in this kid. And there's talk at the deadline of, do you trade this kid? Do you trade Schlittler at the deadline? Go get an impact arm at the deadline. Go get an impact starter at the deadline. The Yankees held, and they said, no, we're gonna trust in Cam Schlittler that he can provide us, with the defensive firepower that we need. And it came, and the decision came back, and it was the right decision at this point, at least. Cam Schlittler kept the Yankees in that game, gave them opportunities to continue to score, and that is the job of the starting pitcher. And he did that by allowing no runs, keeping the traffic limited, and really allowing that offense to catch some fire there.
And you mentioned the Yankees had a big decision to make at the deadline of whether to trade him or not.
Mm-hmm.
They also had the decision of whether to keep pitching Cam Schlittler or Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, and even into the playoffs, whether to pitch Will Warren in this game or to pitch Cam Schlittler, and they decided. I mean, this kid every turn it was, no, we're gonna pick you. The kid had every single bit of pressure and responded perfectly to it, and it's impressive to watch and impressive to see a 20-something-year-old kid, be this dominant in the playoffs. And I just want to give a shout out to the Red Sox pitcher. I mean, he was early. He was pitching great through his first 3 innings, and it was really that 4th inning that just tanked his start. He really looked sharp, though, through those first 2-3 innings.
It was that second time through the order for early. Usually it's the third time through the order, but the Yankees' bats were hot, and they were able to get to early on, no pun intended. But just going back to Schlittler for a minute, full transparency, I didn't have the highest of hopes for this appearance because you've looked at how he's pitched against playoff teams this season. Not great.
Well, and the thing is it's like, it's the playoffs. So it's fine to start a guy like Schlittler, and if he can go 3 solid innings like early went, you'll take that and you'll yank him and put the bullpen in this game 3. The bullpen was somewhat rested from those other 2 starts being decently long. So
they had Will Warren available off the bench to do 3 and 3 potentially.
Yeah, they had options available, right? So, but Schlittler still rose to the task. They had options available. They had this, they had that. He said, nah, Boone, I'm good. Just keep throwing me out there. I'll give you 8 and then toss it to the closer and we'll be good.
And I can't lie. I know we talked about this last night. I was so hoping he would come back out for the 9th.
It would have been so fun. But then again, the kid's 23 odd years old. They're going to have him for another 5 seasons. They don't want to risk hurting the kid.
I guess
and that's unfortunately.
My thought process was with how quickly his 8th inning went, because I was already weary about throwing him in the 8th inning, but then he had a very quick 8th inning.
That is true.
And I was like, ooh, could he?
And they could have always, I mean, if you wanted to play devil's advocate, you could have thrown him out there, start the inning, and had a guy ready in the pen. And if there's traffic, it's just an instant. All right, yep, see you, you're done. Which we've seen from time to time in the playoffs happen. So, just not the route that Boone wanted to go. I wanted to talk about a little funny moment after yesterday's game. Obviously, Giancarlo Stanton ripped a ball in that game and hit off the wall. He pimped that home run, double, but thought it was a home run.
I thought it was out. You were upstairs when that happened, and you came down and you were like, I heard Jack yell bang, and I was like, did something just happen?
And it was nope. Stanton just did. So his quote was, the only doubt was
if that was a homer or not whenever I hit it. So thank goodness for that bonehead play that the team was resilient enough and Cam was resilient enough to go out and it didn't mess up the chemistry or the moment. So that's good. And kids at home, don't do that. Future opponents, please do that.
I love this.
I will forever love Giancarlo Stanton. He is the guy who he messes up. He gets thrown out of the plate. He's having a bad stretch. He's having, he makes a dumb play like this.
He'll tell how it is.
He's going to stand right in front of that locker room after the game, and he's going to take it. He's going to take every question from the reporters, and that's a leader in the clubhouse. And I am so happy that we have Stanton year over year. And there's times where Stanton, he struck out again. But I think we forget how good of a guy he is, that he's willing to just sit there and be like, yeah, that was pretty dumb. I probably should just run. That was really dumb.
And that was a huge hit for Stanton
yes.
because game 1 and 2, he was ice cold, not the October Stanton that we've come to love. And I mean, you can't even blame Stanton in all honesty.
No.
Like he would not have made it to third if everyone in the outfield just tripped.
Like in the moment takes over. I mean, he got a hold of a ball and hit it. I mean, 398, right? So he got in there, but it just barely, maybe the air was too thick or the angle was too short. But I mean, I love it. I've always loved Stanton and the way he handles the media. I think he is the case of what to watch. If you're like, hey, who should I train myself to be when I'm talking to you? Look at Giancarlo Stanton. That guy will answer the questions and answer them honestly. And yeah, I think too. I was looking about this. The next series, Yankees move on to play Toronto. They've actually never played in the playoffs.
I did see that.
Actually had a playoff matchup. This will be the first time that they have had a matchup in the playoffs. So this is fun. This is history. We're watching some history in baseball, and Toronto hasn't won a game in the playoffs since 2016. It's a long time.
And the Yankees looking for vengeance. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they've dropped 7 out of 10 games this season to the Blue Jays.
That sounds accurate. I mean, I feel like the Blue Jays, especially in the latter half of the season, had the Yankees number a lot of those games. So yeah, that sounds like the number that the Yankees were at against the Blue Jays.
All eyes on this series. I personally think it's the series to watch ahead of the Dodgers and the Phillies.
I think probably, I don't know, because it's the interdivision too, though. That's like a lot more fun too. Like Yankees, Blue Jays, they face off a lot more times a year than Dodgers. Yeah, you know what? I'll say that too. I think
we full disclosure, there is bias present, nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, nonetheless, the season also ended. So some managers, and this is I think where we'll kind of end off this episode, is some changing of guards in some places. I want to start off with Texas Rangers firing Bruce Bochy. This one kind of shocked me a little bit. The only part that kind of didn't surprise me was, Bruce Bochy is getting up there in age. He is getting older. But Bruce Bochy and the Texas Rangers won the World Series in 2023, and now all of a sudden he's out 2 years later?
Yeah, to your point, I mean, a World Series winning manager fired not even 2 seasons after the fact. Yeah. And, I mean, granted, the Rangers had a little bit of a disappointing season, but I don't even know if that's necessarily on management. No. I mean, you look at some of the guys that have struggled. Corey Seager and Marcus Semien were ice cold to begin the season. Jock Peterson, one of their bigger free agency signings, was not what they had hoped for. But, I mean, wow. Bruce Bochy.
Yeah, the Rangers did say that there is the possibility of an advisor role for Bruce Bochy. So to me, that leads me to believe that this was a kind of more of a retirement and him kind of wanting to be done. and them kind of be like, all right, yeah, we agree. Like, because I think the way that it was stated was a mutual parting of ways. To me, a name that I think would be very interesting would be Skip Schumacher. He was the former Miami Marlins manager. He is currently serving as, like, I believe, an assistant to the GM Chris Woodward Chris Young, sorry, in Texas. So he's somebody who's probably at the top of the list, and boy, oh boy, that could be fun because he's a great manager.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get Schumacher back on the field in some capacity, and I think he would be a really fun name to look at. But another manager that parted ways with their team but is now moving into a senior advisor role, the Braves parted way with Brian Snitker. Finally, to the hoorays of many Braves fans.
Again, he's getting old. There was some talk around midseason that he might retire come the end of the year, and again, I think that is what we're seeing now. But there's some interesting names to potentially take over at the helm of the Atlanta Braves, and one name that I would love to see get into the game, into the MLB and manage, former Team USA manager Mark DeRosa. He played some years out in Atlanta, playing third base, playing some outfield. That'd be a very exciting name. He's dealt with some stars already, right? I mean, he has dealt with the stars of the Team USA team. So why not put him in that role, or another guy who caught out in Atlanta, David Ross? Those two names would be the top of my list if I was hiring this Braves position.
Yeah, I mean, unless your name is Aaron Boone, majority of the fan base is going to love to see a former player be the manager and come back to the franchise that they were so successful for. Yeah. And speaking of former players that were successful, I'm loving these segues, Gavin. Yeah,
this is going to be a fun one.
Albert Pujols is currently favored to become the next Angels manager after the club parted ways with Ron Washington following his health problems this season.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Pujols, what national team? I'm blanking on the national team. He coached one of the national teams. I think it was the Dominican Republic, I want to say. He was their team manager, and so he's had the Team USA, or he's had the national team experience. With the Dominican Republic. So, I mean, he's a guy who, again, he's another guy who's in a role with the Angels already. He has some sort of deal with the Angels owner that he's basically going to be a team employee for the next 10 years. It's like a personal services contract for the next 10 years. Pujols gets paid $1 million. So you're already paying the guy. Like, he's already got on the payroll. He's already making money off you. Why not just throw him in the dugout and tell him, all right, it's your team, go take it?
Absolutely. And personally, it's really unfortunate what happened with Ron Washington. I always thought he was one of the better third base coaches out in Atlanta, and I thought he could have elevated this Angels team, but unfortunately, health problems got in the way. But who better than a guy like Albert Pujols to come and fill those shoes?
I mean, Ron Washington, he was a manager back in Texas in the early days, 2010 days, but got fired after they didn't really do anything in their playoff pushes. And unfortunately, he finally got back. He finally got back to that number one seat with the Angels. And it sucks that this guy, he had to have the health problems had to pop out. It sucks because this guy is a career baseball guy. And to see, his time coaching end due to health problems, it's a little sad, and it sucks just because of the impact he's made on the game and all the stars, including a guy we talked about earlier in Dansby Swanson. So you wish him well and hope that his health issues are starting to clear up a little bit.
And on the topic of some of these lower level teams this season, the Colorado Rockies general manager Warren Schaefer resigned after earlier this year their manager Bud Black being let go.
Yeah, what ended up coming out was kind of just that the owner there just kind of told him, like, hey, we want a fresh start. We want to just restart here. Get a new manager, get a new coach, or get a new manager, get a new GM. Basically sweep the house. And maybe the owner didn't say it specifically to him, but I'm sure the writing's on the wall that, hey, if you don't turn it around in a year or two, you're going to be out anyways. So for him, it's probably just better to get out now, let the owner, put in a whole new, decision-making crew in Colorado. And, Eno Saris is one of the Athletics writers, their analytics writer, and he tweeted something out that he was talking to a rival executive, and they said that this Rockies gig is very, very exciting, that people actually really want this job. And he said it was surprising. It also kind of surprised me, but when he continued to talk to that executive, the executive said basically, it sucks to play in Colorado, right? The elevation, all that. He's like, So if they can find success there, that person's a genius. So this job, a lot of people might think this Rockies job is like, oh, who would want to go to Colorado? It's such a hard job. That's not how the MLB and the executives around the league view it. They want this gig because they're going to look like a hero if they can do anything there.
Absolutely. And Warren Schaefer, thank you for your service, giving the Yankees Ryan McMahon at the deadline.
And then saying, I'm done. Awesome. We love that. Thank you. And thank you. If you were the one with for DJ LeMahieu, thank you for him too. We appreciate that.
For a couple of years.
The last thing, this was the freshest of news today. The Mets cleaning house.
Cleaning house. The Mets have let go of their pitching coach, both of their hitting coaches, their third base coach, their bench coach, and their catching coach. Their assistant pitching coach and bullpen coach have been given permission to speak with other teams pending their search for their new head pitching coach. And their first base coach, strategy coach, and coaching assistant have all been invited back.
Steve Cohen ended the year with a letter to the fans, and he said, you guys showed up for us. You guys showed up as the fans, and we, as the players, did not get the job done. You figured there had to be someone's head on the line. You figured it probably wasn't going to be Carlos Mendoza because he just got there a few years back. So you figured it wasn't going to be him. So it comes out, it's not going to be him, and instead it's going to be literally pretty much everybody else in the organization who's going to go. I mean, you have to let people go because you brought in the biggest, free agent of the offseason in Juan Soto. You already had a decent young core from last season when you made the playoff push. And to not make the playoffs still, that's pretty disappointing for Mets fans. That's pretty poor for the Mets.
It will definitely be interesting to see whether the staff as a whole was what was wrong with the Mets, or if it was truly Carlos Mendoza, like I have seen a lot of Mets fans say.
And they could be doing it without their first baseman over there, Pete Alonso. He already announced after the Mets season ended that he is going to opt out of his deal. So this is going to be an interesting offseason for the Mets. They're going to have to rebuild their full coaching staff, as well as see if they're going to keep Pete, not keep Pete. We'll see what happens with that.
Their star closer, and Edwin Diaz, even unsure about his future in New York. He said postseason he wanted to talk to his family about his decision first, and then he would make his decision on whether or not he's staying in New York.
Yeah, I mean, this is a major changing point. I mean, I think, Steve Cohen, when he took over the team, he wanted to turn it around in an instant. He wanted a World Series within the first 10 years, I want to say. And I want to say we're getting pretty close to that window of his 10-year window to get a World Series. So, I talked about it so many times, but just because you throw money at it doesn't mean you're going to win. And the Mets showed it as perfect as you can show it.
Nonetheless, a lot of great baseball on deck for this weekend. All 4 series games starting tomorrow.
Yep.
It's going to be so fun to watch. I love October baseball. I'm excited. Everyone at Afterthought Sports is excited.
Let's watch 12 hours of baseball tomorrow.
Let's
do it.
Get it started. But anyway, thank you for watching this week's episode of Inside the Inning, brought to you by Afterthought Sports. We'll see you next week for some ALDS commentary and previewing some ALCS matchups. But for Gavin Watson, I'm Jack Haskell. We'll see you next week. Go Yankees.